Everyone. I'm pretty hyped to bring you this story because I actually really like this story. This is one of my favorites of the many stories I have because, it's just fun, it's pretty funny, it's a decent amount goofy, and, I just like it. So, yeah, and I thought I would tell this story because, earlier I did buy some acid, which, I don't know if I'm gonna do that today, tonight, tomorrow, or shit, maybe Monday at school. I'm not sure. That would be a bad idea, but that would probably make a pretty funny story. But this is a story about mushrooms in the rain, and it was pretty interesting. So I'm just gonna get right into it. So this story dates back about, I want to say, a month ago, and you probably didn't really expect this, which I'm being sarcastic as fuck. Of course, you guys probably, this isn't really a surprise by now, but, a pretty important character of this story is, lo and behold, Chris. One of my closest friends ever. Known him since 6th grade. He's my fucking man. So, me and Chris, me and him both had a cake, those little dispos. This isn't really, it's relevant to the story, but this isn't really the main part of the story. So me and him, we both had cakes. We both had a golden nectar that wasn't indica or sativa, it was hybrid. So we had these hybrids, it was a really good flavor, golden nectar, it was a little blue dispo, and we really liked it. And the same guy who gave it to us, I'm gonna call him Cody. Cody, he also sold shrooms. So, me and Chris, we decided that we wanted to buy some. So, I don't know what this dude's prices were. I found someone who sells, them for way, more fair, where you could get an eighth of shrooms for $20. But this guy had us getting 2 grams for, fucking $20. So we weren't really, tripping complete and total fucking balls, but we were definitely having, a pretty decent trip. So I spent the $20. Then, Chris didn't pay any money out of pocket. This is all me. But, I got the bag. It was a little bit more than 2 grams. I think Cody, gave us, a little bit of a hookup, but I remember I came in the morning, I had the 20, Cody wasn't already there. I don't even know if Chris was already there. I think it was just me, but I see Cody come up. He's, a little bit freaked out, because he's like, holy shit, I'm bringing psilocybin mushrooms to school. If I get caught with this, I'm fucking cooked, Because, here in California, when they catch you with that shit, it's no joke, and they could actually, fuck you up pretty badly. So, I could definitely kind of read, the worry and, kind of just the fear coming off of Cody's face. He definitely didn't really want to be carrying that around at school. I don't really know, what he expected was going to happen to him, because that's not really something you so much have to worry about, getting caught with, unless you have, a super big amount, because, you could just, slip that shit in your pocket, and it's not really, gonna smell a whole bunch, unless you, open the bag and put it right up to your face, you're not really gonna smell shit. So, I passed him the 20, he pulls it out, he gives me the bag, and then, we dap each other up, and then he leaves. And then Chris, comes by, and I'm like, yo, bro, I got the mushrooms, and he's like, oh, type shit. I'm pretty sure Chris didn't say that, he's not the kind of guy that would say that, but he says something like that, or he wasn't, super hyped about it like I was. He was kind of just casual about it. He's like, oh, oh, you wanna do it later with me, oh, you're gonna have me in on it, cool. He wasn't, shitting his pants over it, but, he was like, okay, we're gonna go do this. So, pretty much, we didn't eat them immediately. I just put them right in my pocket, and then we went off to first period. So me and him, we put our backpacks in our lockers, me and Chris, and then we left the locker room, and we were just hanging outside waiting for our PE teacher to show up. And while we were outside, it was a little bit I'm not sure if it was sprinkly, but the ground was pretty wet because it was raining earlier that day. It wasn't raining all throughout the whole day, but it was a little bit sprinkly at the moment. So we wanted to not really be outside. So after our fucking fuck ass PE teacher shows up, we all get on our numbers, and he determines whether we're dressed out or not, whether he's gonna give us a fucking F or whether he's gonna give you a C. whatever, because that's pretty much where like 90% of your points are based off of, is whether you fucking put on the tight ass like fucking bikini that they make the boys wear or whatever. But pretty much at my school we have a big gym and then we have a small gym. He says like pretty much since it's like a little bit rainy today, we're just gonna go into the small gym. So he opens the door, we all go in, and then me and Chris, like a bunch of other kids are like playing volleyball, playing basketball and other shit. Me and Chris always just sit down, we're on our phones, just talking about some fuck shit, laughing about some fuck shit, you know, just kind of being boys. That sounded gay. But I was kind of just like, yo, bro, are you ready to do this? And I kind of informed him. I was like, hey, so some people, and I this wasn't my first time doing mushrooms. It was definitely not my first rodeo. So, like, I already have, like, experience. And I was like, hey, like, do you want some water or something? Because, like, some people say this tastes like shit. Like, to me, it doesn't taste like shit. Because, like, me personally, I really, like, don't mind the taste at all. Like, in my opinion, it's actually, like, mildly pleasant. Like, it's not like an amazing symphony of flavors, but it's kind of just whatever. Like, it doesn't taste bad at all. It doesn't necessarily taste like amazingly appetizing, but like it's like not bad at all. Like there's nothing bad about it. Yeah, it's a little tough, it's a little chewy, but it's whatever. So Chris is kind of just like, no, I'll tough it down. So what I do is I open the bag. And then the first thing I do is I give him like a little bit of a piece, and then he just puts it right into his mouth, and then he puts it in his mouth, and he starts chewing it, and then he decides like, oh shit, this really doesn't taste bad. This kind of just tastes like mushroom toppings on a pizza, but like more mushroomy and dried out. And I'm just like, yeah, exactly. So, you know, we keep going through this bag, and now obviously, since he didn't pay for shit, you know, he's still one of my homies, but like, I'm definitely, you know, I'm not splitting it 50-50. I'm definitely going to be the one eating more. I don't know why our stupid asses were choosing to eat this at school. This was definitely a day where we were still going to have work, and, like, this wasn't just, like, a fucking free day where we were going to, like, just sit around and watch movies all class. Like, this wasn't the day before Christmas break. This is, like, I think this is, like, in the end of October or some shit. But so, like I said, me and Chris are kind of just going through this bag. And, you know, eventually we get through the bag. Now, I ate way more than he did. I think, like I said, you know, we bought 2 grams. I think Cody, like, blessed us with maybe a little bit more than 2 grams. It wasn't, like, full, like, mushrooms. It was, like, grounded up into pieces. But I want to say it was, like, not those really, like, super tall mushrooms. Kind of, like, a little bit the shorter ones. And it was, like, I'd say either 1.5 of those that were, like, ground up, or, like, 2 and, like, a couple little extra pieces. But they're, like, a little bit decently sized pieces, and then like tiny, like not like fully like processed fine powder, but like kind of like crumbs, you know what I mean? And if I were to estimate, I'd say he ate about like 0.7 grams, and then I ate the rest, which would be like 1.3 grams. So we weren't like heavily tripping out of our fucking minds. Like, we weren't like seeing crazy, or I know he wasn't seeing crazy visuals, but I had like, and we'll get to that later on in the story, because it probably wouldn't make sense with the amount of context we got going on right now. Oh, my stupid ass almost forgot, like, one of the most important parts of the story. This isn't, like, an extremely important detail, but I already mentioned something about it earlier, so, like, why not talk about it? Or it would be, like, absolutely fucking stupid if I didn't talk about it. Like, you remember how I said we had those pens? Yeah, we totally blazed our fucking asses off before we ate those shrooms. So we were, like, I guess we were getting, like, cross-faded, not with alcohol, but, like, between, like, psilocybin shrooms and, you know, wax. Because, you know, we're just like that. We're not so much about bud and flower. We're kind of more stupid. You know, we like wax. Because, you know, we're broke. And we don't have that much options. It's just what we got. So yeah, not only were we, like, messing around with some shrooms on the school day, but we were also, like, screwing around with some wax. So, you know, I don't really know if that adds to the, like, story, or if that adds to the shrooms, like, very much, but I thought that would be a pretty important detail to throw in, you know, just because, you know, I remember it, thinking about it now. But I remember after we finished this bag of shrooms, obviously we didn't immediately feel anything, and I remember I kind of just looked at Chris, you know, He looked at me, we finished the shrooms, and we get up, and then we kind of just leave, because around this time, it was about the time that the period was over. Now, I mentioned this before, where the kids for PE, we get out of class, like, earlier than, like, all the other classes. And this was obviously because they wanted to give us, like, an extra 10 minutes to, like, get our shit out of a locker and, like, get dressed out, like, back into our normal clothes and other shit like that. But me and Chris, we don't, like, dress out, so we kind of just have, like, that extra 10 minutes to just do whatever fuck shit. Now, it was kind of funny, because, after first period, me and Chris, we have break. During break, obviously, we still didn't feel anything. We were kind of just, chilling. And it's kind of funny, because after break, break was pretty uneventful, so I have no really point in talking about it, because to be completely honest with you, I don't even fucking remember break. We were all just talking and shit. I remember I went into second period, which was my English class. I didn't really, like, feel the mushrooms kick in, but I felt them, like, creeping up on me. Like, I slowly, like, felt the effects. Like, it's a psychedelic. It's not, like, mushrooms isn't, like, how people, like, explain it, where it's, like, you fucking, like, teleport into, like, a completely different dimension. Pretty much, if I was to, like, explain the effects of mushrooms to you, it's like, say you're doing a microdose where you only do, like, 0.3 grams to, like, 0.9 grams. That's, like, a microdose, and that's pretty much just, you feel, like, a little bit of mental sharpness. You feel, like, a little bit of extra, like, pep in your step. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like after drinking a Red Bull, but, like, a little bit stronger. Not, like, where you're, like, you feel, like, super, super energized and you, like, need to get your energy out, but kind of just, you notice a boost. And then I say after that is a small dose, which is, like, anywhere from 1 gram to, like, 1.7 grams. And I'd say that's kind of just, like, a little bit where, like, it's kind of like the microdose, except you're thinking, like, a little bit harder. And, like, you notice that, like, everything appears a bit more brighter. And then after that is a museum dose, which is anywhere from, like, 1.8 grams to, like, 2.5 grams. And then that's kind of just, like, where the colors are. And this was pretty much what dose I was on. This is pretty much where the colors are, like, more vibrant and, like, very, like, vivid looking. And you don't really have super, super heavy visuals. Like, you barely have visuals. Like, say you kind of just look at, like, letters, and then you just barely see them moving, like, or stretching and whatever. And then so on and so forth. You get, like, a moderate dose, which is, like, I want to say 2.6 grams to, like, 3.3 grams. And then I'd say after that is a mega dose, and then a heroic dose, and then, like, a fucking god dose or something, which I don't really have a lot of experience with that. I have experience with a heroic dose, but that's a story for another time, which that's going to be a crazy fucking story. Back to the story, though. After my little, like, shroom dose analysis, I was on a museum dose, and once I go into, I want to say, third period, I start to fucking feel this shit. I'm looking around, and all the colors are, like, really bright and, like, really vibrant, and then my mind is just fucking all over the place. Like, I'm thinking everywhere. It's like when you're, like, when you, smoke sativa, and then, like, you just kind of, like, start, like, shower thoughting out, and your mind is just all over the place, but, like, times 100. Like, I was getting fucking philosophical. I was thinking outside the box. Like, it was wild. I was thinking of, like, all kinds of, like, crazy shit and, like, crazy possibilities, like, rethinking my whole, like, persona and, like, rethinking all of, like, my morals and values. And to be honest, I actually really liked this feeling. Like, it didn't really freak me out. I was kind of chilling. I was, like, giggling my ass off, and it was great. But when I got into fourth period, this is when things started to kind of, like, take a turn, which things didn't really go, like, super horrible in fourth period. I just got a little bit afraid for a bit. Now, this one girl, the reason I got freaked out is because this one girl, I'm going to call her Megan. That's not her real name, but, I'm going to continue on. She doesn't really, like, fuck with me in, like, a super bad way, but, like, she definitely, like, kind of fucks with me from here and there. It's not, like, super negative where, like, she's trying to fucking, like, bully my ass or some shit, but, like, kind of just, like, I guess kind of like in a playful way, but like still kind of like just like fucking with me, and it like gets annoying sometimes. So like she knows that like I've smoked weed before, because like I'd come into class like with my eyes all red and I'd be all like cackling and shit. She looks at me, she sees my pupils are dilated as fuck, my eyes are still a little bit red because me and Chris were hitting hybrid together, that nice ass pen that was fucking smacking. Yeah, so like my eyes were still like a little bit pink and a little bit rare from that, and then I just keep fucking laughing because the shrooms were just, they had an effect on me, and I'm sure they did with Chris too. Or I'll get to that later. But she literally looks at me, and she looks at her friend, which is sitting right next to her. Her friend wasn't even in this class, but her friend was on her lunch period, and she like chose to go into the class for her lunch period. And then she was like, "Yep, he's on drugs." And then I was just like, in my head, I was like, "Yep, she fucking knows." And then guess what she does? Fucking Megan. She turns around, she looks at the teacher, and what do I want to call the teacher? I'll just call him Mr. A. She was like, "Mr. A, did you hear that he does drugs?" And then Mr. A, straight up, like him being the fucking man, being one of my favorite teachers ever, he just goes like, "Oh, that's personal shit. I don't really give a fuck about that." This dude didn't escort me to security. This dude didn't give a shit. This dude was chilling. And like, he always like could see me pretty fucked up in class sometimes, and he never really gave a fuck. But I get out of class. Eventually the trip does wear off, and then I'm just completely sober, no THC, no psilocybin, I'm just completely good. And then I hit up Chris, and I'm like, "Yo, dude, how'd your trip go?" And you wouldn't believe me if I told you that apparently this dude had a bad trip. Because, he essentially, like, microdosed, and I don't know how the fuck this happened to him. I don't know the science behind this. This doesn't really sound, like, super realistic, so at first I kind of thought this dude was, like, fucking lying to me. But, like, apparently he didn't really feel anything, but, like, for a good 10-minute span, he had, like, a schizophrenia simulation almost, where it was, like, just, like, a bunch of voices in his head, like, telling him he's worthless, and, like, telling him that he should, do some not so, like, mentally sane stuff to himself that would result in a lot of people who care about him being sad. I don't really want to mention that in this video, because it's a bit of a sensitive topic, but I was just like, "Damn, dude. Shit, I'm sorry that happened." He was kind of just like, "Oh, it's whatever." And I was like, "Hey, do you want to do that again someday?" And he's like, "I don't know." And then another day I asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, sure." So, me and him will probably do it again. And, honestly, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Being in the rain was, like, pretty interesting. It, like, felt, like, pretty good. It felt fun. I really enjoyed it. And, I'll definitely bring more story times like this, because I definitely have, like, a handful of extra stories about, this kind of stuff. Psilocybin, which, it's not something I like to do, like, every day. It's kind of just, like, a once in a while thing, because, it can be pretty fun. It can be pretty scary for some, but, I enjoy it. And, I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Sorry it took me, like, quite a few days to get this out. I've been, like, really busy and caught up with some shit. But, I'll try to get to you, I'll say, tomorrow or in, like, the next couple days, because, I definitely have more stories, but, I'm just still figuring things out. So, yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that, and I'll see y'all in the next one.